I am 92 years old, and I have held the hands of more dying people than I can count. For over 5 decades, I worked as a hospice nurse. I sat beside people in their final hours. I watched them take their last breath. I heard their last words. And I need to tell you something that has stayed with me every single day since I retired, something I wish someone had told me when I was your age. Most people, in their final moments, do not talk about their careers. They do not talk about the money they made. They do not ask for their phone. They do not check their emails one last time. They ask for people. They whisper names. Names of people they loved. Names of people they hurt. Names of people they never called back. And some of them, they reach out their hand, searching for someone who was not in that room, someone who should have been there, but wasn't. I have seen strong men who built companies, men who commanded rooms, reduced to tears in those final hours, not because of pain, but because of regret. And the regret was never about what they did. It was always about what they didn't do. I thought I had time. That is the sentence I heard more than any other in 50 years of nursing. I thought I had time. I thought I had time to call my son. I thought I had time to forgive my sister. I thought I had time to say, I love you. But later never came. And now I am 92. And I have carried these words with me for decades. Because here is what frightens me most. Not death. I have made peace with death long ago. What frightens me is that you are living the same way those people lived. Postponing, delaying, waiting for the right moment. And the right moment never comes. I was wrong to stay silent for so long. So today, I am not staying silent. I did not choose this work by accident. I came to hospice nursing after years of working in busy hospital wards, loud places, fast places, places where saving a life meant rushing, cutting, injecting, restarting, and I was good at it. I was efficient, I was precise, I followed every protocol. But something always felt unfinished to me in those wards. We would stabilize a patient, we would send them home, and we never knew what happened next. So when I was 34 years old, I transferred to hospice care. My colleagues thought I was strange. How can you work with dying people every day? They asked me. I told them the same thing every time. Because dying people tell the truth. And that was true. When a person knows their time is running out, the walls come down. The performance stops. The mask they wore their whole life, it falls away. And what is left underneath is always the same thing. Love. And the fear of not having given enough of it. I remember one of my earliest patients in hospice, a man in his late 70s, retired engineer, very intelligent, very controlled. He had built bridges, literal bridges, structures that thousands of people crossed every single day. When I first met him, he was proud. Even in that bed, even in those final weeks, he sat straight. He spoke carefully. He showed me photographs of his work. That one, he said, pointing to a large suspension bridge. I designed the foundation of that. It will stand for 200 years. I smiled. I told him it was remarkable, and it was. But in his third week with us, something changed. The pride began to fade, not because of the illness. The illness had already done what it was going to do. Something else was happening inside him. He started asking the nurses if his son had called. Every morning, every evening. Did anyone call for me? Did David call? David was his son, 44 years old, living 3 hours away. The calls never came. I sat with this man one afternoon, just the two of us. The room was quiet. A little light came through the window. He looked at his hands for a long time. Then he said to me very quietly, I was always working. That was all. I was always working. No explanation, no defense. Just those 4 words carrying the weight of a lifetime. I did not say anything. Sometimes silence is the most honest response. He passed 11 days later. David arrived 4 hours after he was gone. I opened the door for him. I saw his face. And I understood in that moment that the regret does not only belong to the dying. It spreads. It passes from one generation to the next like something inherited. The father who was never present raises a son who does not know how to be present. And the cycle continues. I went home that evening and I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. I thought about my own life. I thought about the people I had been too busy for. I thought about the phone calls I had delayed. And I realized something that changed me. I was not only a witness to this pattern, I was living it too. There was one patient who broke me, not professionally, not emotionally in the way you might expect. She broke something open inside me that I did not know was closed. Her name was Margaret. She was 79 years old, retired school teacher, small woman, white hair, the kind of eyes that made you feel she could see straight through you. She had no family in her final weeks, not because they were gone, because she had pushed them away. Years of silence, years of pride, years of waiting for the other person to apologize first, and none of them came. When I first started caring for her, she was angry. Angry at the food, angry at the lighting, angry at the sound of the television down the hall. But I knew that anger. I had seen it many times before. It was not anger at the food or the light or the television. It was anger at herself. I spent more time with Margaret than my duties required. Something pulled me to her room. Some mornings I would simply sit with her before my shift properly began. I would bring 2 cups of tea. I would not say much, and slowly, she began to talk. She told me about her daughter, Susan. They had not spoken in 11 years. 11 years, over something she could no longer fully remember. I think it was about Christmas, she said one morning, or maybe it was something said at a birthday. I cannot even recall exactly. She looked out the window. 11 years, she whispered, over something I cannot even remember. I watched her face as she said it, and what I saw there was not sadness, it was shock. The shock of a woman realizing for the first time how absurd it all was, how much life had been spent protecting a wound that had long since stopped bleeding. 3 weeks before Margaret passed, she asked me to help her write a letter to Susan. Her hand was too weak to hold the pen steadily, so she spoke and I wrote. She did not say much, just that she was sorry, that she had been proud and foolish, that she thought about Susan every single day, that she loved her. We sent the letter. Susan never responded. Maybe she never received it. Maybe she was not ready. Maybe 11 years had hardened something that could no longer soften in time. I do not know. What I do know is this. The night Margaret passed, she was calm, calmer than I had ever seen her. She held my hand. She looked at the ceiling, and just before the end, she said something very softly. I leaned in close to hear her. She said, "I waited too long." That was it. I waited too long. I walked to my car that evening, and I sat there in the dark for almost an hour, because those 3 words had reached into my chest and pulled something out of me. I thought about my own sister. We had grown distant over the years, not dramatically, not with a fight or a rupture, just slowly, the way people drift when life gets busy, and phone calls get shorter, and visits get rescheduled until they stop being rescheduled altogether. I had told myself we would reconnect. I had told myself we had time. I thought I had time. I drove directly from that parking lot to my sister's house. It was late, past 9 in the evening. She opened the door and looked at me with confusion. "Is everything all right?" she asked. I said, "I just needed to see you." She let me in. We sat at her kitchen table until past midnight, talking about nothing important, talking about everything important, and I understood that night what Margaret had been trying to teach me. Not through her words, through her waiting. The lesson was not about death. It was about what we do with the time before it arrives, and most of us are doing it wrong. After 50 years of sitting beside the dying, I learned one truth, one single truth that sits beneath everything else. We lie to ourselves about time, not intentionally, not with malice, but constantly, quietly, every single day. We wake up in the morning and we make an invisible promise to ourselves. Later. I will do it later. I will call them later. I will apologize later. I will slow down later. I will tell them I love them later. And we believe it. We genuinely believe that later exists, that there is some future version of our life where we will finally have the time, the courage, the right words. But I have sat beside hundreds of people at the end of their lives, and I have never once heard a single person say, "I am so glad I waited." Not one. I have heard regret in every language. I have heard it from the educated and the uneducated, from the wealthy and the poor, from people who believed in God and people who believed in nothing. And the regret was always the same shape. It was always about connection, not achievement, not success, connection. Here is what I want you to understand. The world we live in today is very good at one thing, making you feel that productivity is the same as a life well lived, that if you are busy, you are important, that if you are building, you are succeeding, that if you are achieving, you are happy. I was wrong to believe that, and the people in those beds were wrong to believe it too, because at the end, nobody holds up their achievements, nobody clutches their awards, nobody asks to see their bank balance one final time. They reach for hands, they speak names, they search the room for faces they love. That is the only audit that happens at the end of a human life, not what you built, but who you loved, and whether they knew it. I think about the engineer who built bridges. He built structures that will outlast him by centuries, and in his final days, all he wanted was a phone call from his son. Think about that. 200 years of concrete and steel, and all of it meant nothing without one phone call. I think about Margaret, a woman who spent 11 years protecting her pride, 11 years of mornings waking up without her daughter, 11 years of birthdays passing in silence, 11 years of I thought I had time, and later never came. Now I want to speak directly to you, not as a nurse, as a 92-year-old woman who has seen more endings than most people will ever witness. You have something right now that every person in every bed I ever sat beside desperately wanted. Time. You have today. You have this evening. You have the ability to pick up the phone right now. You have the ability to drive to someone's house unannounced on a Tuesday night and say, I just needed to see you. You have the ability to say, I am sorry first, even if you do not believe you were wrong, even if pride is telling you to wait. Do not wait. I waited too long in my own life. I was wrong. The people in those beds were wrong. And if you are living the way we lived, postponing the things that matter most, then you are making the same mistake. The mistake is not laziness. The mistake is not cruelty. The mistake is the quiet, comfortable lie that there is always more time. There is not always more time. I have watched time run out more times than I can count. And it never announces itself. It does not give you a warning. It does not wait for you to be ready. One day, the chance to say what you needed to say simply closes, like a door, quietly, finally, and you are left standing on the wrong side of it. Don't make my mistake. Don't make their mistake. The most important things in your life are not waiting for you to finish being busy. They are waiting for you to choose them. Choose them now. I am 92 years old. I do not have many mornings left. And that does not frighten me. What frightens me is you. What frightens me is the thought that you will watch this, feel something for a moment, and then put your phone down and go back to exactly the way things were. That you will think about the person you have been meaning to call, and not call them. That you will think about the apology you have been carrying for years, and keep carrying it. That you will feel the pull toward the people you love, and ignore it, because something less important is demanding your attention, something that will not matter in the end. I have seen it happen 1,000 times, not because people are bad, but because urgency is loud, and love is quiet. The urgent things scream at you. The important things wait patiently, and we almost always respond to what is loudest, until we can't anymore. I want you to think about someone right now, not in an abstract way, a specific person, someone you have grown distant from, someone you have been meaning to reach out to, someone whose name just appeared in your mind the moment I said that. You know who they are. You have always known. And somewhere beneath the busyness and the distraction and the quiet pride, you know that time is moving. You know that nothing is guaranteed. You know that the call you keep postponing may one day become a call you are too late to make. I thought I had time. I was wrong. The engineer thought he had time. He was wrong. Margaret thought she had time. She was wrong. And every single person I sat beside in those final hours, every hand I held, every last breath I witnessed, every name whispered into an empty room, they all thought they had time. Every one of them. Do not wait for a diagnosis to start living with urgency. Do not wait for a funeral to remember what matters. Do not wait until you are lying in a bed, reaching for a hand that is not there, to realize that you had every opportunity to reach for it while you were still strong, while you still had your voice, while the door was still open. Later never came for them, and later will not come for you either. I have given you the truth that took me 50 years to fully understand. What you do with it is your choice. But please, do not make my mistake. Do not make their mistake. Go home to the people who matter. Say the things that need to be said. Say them today. Say them while you still can. Because one day, and none of us knows when that day is, you will take your last breath. And in that moment, the only question that will matter is not what you achieved. It is whether the people you loved knew it. Make sure they know it, starting today, not tomorrow, not later, today.